You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Kraft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Kraft.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast. Thank you for joining me today. And I have with me a very special guest, and this is Sheila Vaske, right?
Yeah. Sheila Vaske, yes.
Yes, yes. And so Sheila is going to share her story of trauma as a child and how that affected her body and how when she first started waking up, she actually was able to heal that at a very young age. So welcome, Sheila.
Hi, Gail. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, this is going to be so much fun. And let's
know.
talk a little bit about childhood trauma. I share pieces of my story a lot. And, whatever your trauma is important to you. And, big or small, trauma is trauma and it settles in the body.
Yes.
So for me, I had many experiences that I've shared throughout my podcast, which I won't go through in detail here. But the result was, by the time I was 13, I had chronic constipation, which I didn't heal until way later as an adult. Backaches, ulcers, migraines, sinus congestion, tonsillitis, and then just whatever. So when you think about not being able to communicate, which is this, not being able to tell my truth, which was the sinuses, right, and so on and so forth, because of the weight I held in, so many secrets, so many lies in my family, and I was the one who was expected to carry it all, even though I was 10 years younger than my siblings. 10 and 20 years younger than them, I carried the weight. And so it showed up in my body. Now, I have none of those conditions now, by the way, not one. Right? And I am on no medication, by the way. Right? So, right? Am I saying that your mind will heal you? I'm never going to say that. I'm going to say that miracles do happen. Do seek a professional, but also work on yourself, mind, body, and soul. So Sheila, let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff that was going on in your life that led you to physical ailments and what those were like.
Sure. Thank you. And you're right. I mean, all of it sort of, no matter what it is, we are all faced with trauma. I don't care who it is. Someone's got a story, right?
Right.
Like you said, and I'm curious to know too, if you were given that information or it was your cross to bear, because I felt the same way. And maybe that's the empath in me. When I was young, I absorbed all of the trauma, whether it was mine or not mine. And there were many experiences growing up that were traumatic for me, like I said, and made me feel a certain way, but I also took on everyone else's as well. And
so I'll tell you my story and then we'll go into yours because it's true. And we're all empathic to some degree. So at the age of 2, I was sitting on the floor playing with clothespins. My mother was at the sink doing dishes. As I was playing and putting together and pulling apart the clothespins, a pipe broke in the sink, under the sink.
Mm-hmm.
My mother went through panic, and the 2-year-old associated me playing with the clothespins caused that pipe to break, causing my mother to panic.
Wow.
And I made a decision. These are the stories we make up.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh, yeah. The stories we tell ourselves.
The stories we tell. And I made a decision that my family will no ever, ever again go through that, I
Yes.
will be sure I keep the peace and balance in the family at 2 years old.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Huh. Well, there's things that I can't remember as a child or a toddler for that matter. But I will tell you that my mom was a widow when I was a year and my brother was 2. And that caused a lot of trauma. And maybe I never related this before. I only looked at it as me as the victim of that. But because, my brother was like the God that came back. That was the son that died. And Sheila was like just invisible.
Mhm.
And my mom was experiencing trauma. And maybe that actually makes sense, where I always felt this need to protect my mother.
Right.
And I feel her emotions before she would speak or when she walked in her room. So I was actually processing this right now as I'm talking to you.
And that's what
And,
coaching with Gail is like.
which I never actually, because I always felt, because I know, yes, you're right. We all do have empath in us. Some take it to different degrees, right? And I think that isolation of being alone as a child too, I absorbed energy and would sense feelings and energy constantly. And so that being said, I think I held a lot. I don't think I know. I held a lot of emotions inside of me, but now I'm like, ding, 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 another bell's going off in my head right now, where I never ever thought of that part before. So dang, Gail, you're good.
Thank you.
But yes. So yeah, it did cause disease. And when I was 11, or I was 10 actually, when I couldn't figure out what was wrong with my finger. It started in my index finger and it was really swollen. And I was delivered newspapers at the time. I was 10. Imagine, could you imagine a 10-year-old working today? That's funny. But anyway, yeah, I was delivering newspapers and I'm like, what's going on with my finger? I just keep banging it. It keeps hurting. And sure, it just seemed like, well, what's wrong? So we took x-rays. It went on and on and on for about a year. By that point, a year later, the index finger went from swollen to crippled. And then it started going into my whole right arm. So long story short, nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. And so my mom took me to Boston Children's Hospital. And I was a case study there. And I was diagnosed at that time, which was super rare, with scleroderma. Now, typically you don't get scleroderma. It's number one, super rare. Getting it as a child is like rarer than rarer than rare. Okay. So it's very bizarre. And no one could figure out, doctors are like, I don't know how this is happening. So anyway, they gave me a diagnosis of 5 years to live. And that was it. I had no function of my right hand. And that was the label that they gave me, and the diagnosis and the lifeline that they gave me. And I do believe that that disease, which I like to break down as dis-ease, and a lot of the things that we're feeling physically in our bodies are caused by our minds and the things that we carry within us. And so it is, mind and soul is a very powerful thing. And I was able to heal myself and regain full function of my hand again. And it looks 10 times better than it did when I was 14. And I did that by one person in my high school, my health teacher, saying, one day we're going to talk about the power of the mind and how powerful it is. And what you give power to has power over you. And that was the day and the moment I decided I don't have this disease and I'm not giving it attention anymore, because the more attention we give it, the more it will thrive. So I let that go and went home and said, I'm no longer a case study. I gonna figure this out on my own. I get to decide what my timeline is, and I will decide what I'm going to do. So the good news is I'm still alive.
It,
In many different ways, but I'm still here, whether you like it or not.
right. So
uh,
so much more. And so it's what's the way that I break down the mind and body soul connection. Um, the soul is always pure, and the soul is joy and wants to play.
yeah.
But if you don't let it in, it's just kind of waiting there patiently for you
Mm,
to notice it, right?
mhm,
Now your mind and your body, when you put attention to something,
mhm,
it creates energy. So imagine you've created an electric shock in your body and you keep zapping and keep zapping the same spot because you're replaying that same program over and over. You continue to zap, and eventually that part of your body goes, well, I don't want to be zapped anymore, so I'm going to stop feeling that.
yeah.
Right. And so you're still zapping. So, okay, you're not zapping there. I'll zap a little bit further down the arm. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop zapping. Right. And so this is where, and I'm going to say the big C, cancer patients, right?
Mhm,
Many people that I personally know who have had to
mhm,
deal with that horrific disease
mhm,
have been people who have carried the burden of the family on their shoulders.
mhm.
They have been the people who have been the responsible ones, right? They have been the people who have been Atlas and holding up the world,
Yeah.
right?
They're the
And
ones most love most of the time.
right, right.
Yeah.
And I can remember hearing friends when I was in high school. My mother has cancer. She's such a wonderful person. Why would God do this to her? Right? Well, she's such a wonderful person. She's doing it to herself because she's not loving herself enough.
Yeah. Amen.
Right?
Mhm,
Right?
mhm.
And so that is fact. Now, will someone get cancer who doesn't is an atlas? Of course. Of course. There are many causes for these unbalances in our body,
Sure.
right? But that one is definitely a prevalent one that I have seen time and time and time again with
Yes.
people in my life. It's the people who love too much,
Yes.
right? Right?
Yes.
And that's, as children,
Mhm.
we love too much because that's all we know. And we
Yeah.
learn to either blame ourselves and hurt ourselves because could, of course, I'm going to continue to love my mother, right?
Mhm,
So something's wrong with me here. So,
mhm.
I'm a terrible person because I still have to love my mother. Or, well, I'm the victim and I'm not going to love my mother anymore and I'm going to blame her for everything. Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we go again
Yeah.
into that cycle. So earlier we were talking about how we are so similar. So my mom passed when I was 3. And so I
Wow.
also was raised with a single.
That explains the hence why you took on that emotion,
Right.
that responsibility.
Well, that just got bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
It was just and it just
Mhm.
insane. And then the secrets and the lies. I mean, one of the most prevalent conversations in my household was, "Don't hang your dirty laundry out for the neighbors to see."
Of course.
And I'm like, "What dirty laundry?" Right? What I'm like, "7, what are you talking about, dirty laundry? What dirty laundry? I'm not supposed you wash it before. What are you talking about?" Right?
Mhm.
Right?
Yes.
And one of the traumas that I, a couple of years ago, worked with was my father's and my mother's, not mine, right? But it came up and I'm like, "Oh, come on, I have to deal with yours too?" Right? Right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it was about being Jews. My mom was a German Jew, so you can imagine her fears. And my
Wow.
father was a Russian Jew, and his family left Russia when they were bringing Jews out into the woods to shoot them. So you
Mhm.
can imagine how he was raised, right?
Mhm.
And so this whole fear of our religion I can remember my dad on a Friday night closing the curtains, putting the yarmulke on,
Mhm.
lighting the candles, and saying, "Don't ever be ashamed of who you are."
Isn't that
Well,
an oxymoron?
right, right, right. Plus, I asked to go to temple. I asked to learn Hebrew and was told no. So,
But don't be ashamed of who you are.
but don't be ashamed of who you are. Right. Be proud, but no, right. But the good news is, that put me on a journey at
Yeah.
13 to
Mhm.
explore other religions and spirituality,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's funny because, again, I have no knock on religion. If that's what makes you feel good, you do what makes you feel good. Um, I have they're Christian beliefs, but there's a to me, religion is a organization. Your oneness with God or universe or whatever it is you want to call it, that's unique to you and that's special.
Right.
People can go to a church and still act like, can I swear on here?
Um, you
Yeah.
can.
Butthole. Okay. Um, that doesn't make you good because you went to church and you treat people like a butthead. Okay.
Right. Right.
It makes you a good person when you are connected to your source, your God, and you portray that and serve onto others with kindness and love in the
But
world.
it's living with integrity, however you
Yeah.
define that is. Um, my first roommate was a Roman Catholic. Therefore,
Mhm.
she had confession.
Yes, I
So
lived that.
she could go to confession and confess her sins,
Mm,
and then the following week sleep with all the married men that she could,
perfect.
and then go confess it again,
Yeah,
right? And I would sit there going, confession is supposed to mean I'm sorry and I'll never do it again.
it's repenting. Feel guilty for your sins.
Right. So I was very confused about her interpretation. And
Yeah.
I can remember she did, of course, get pregnant and went home. And one of the bartenders where we used to frequent when the child was born, he said, "Is it a redhead?"
Uh-oh. Can you see me?
I can see you fine, honey.
Okay, good, because my phone's ringing and I don't know what to do. Okay.
Just let it ring. It'll go to the answering service.
Okay, sorry about that. So I missed your last part. Can you repeat
Oh
that part?
no! So one of the bartenders where we used to go asked me if her child was a redhead because he was a redhead Irishman.
Oh my. Wow.
Yes. And
Yeah.
for me it was very, very confusing. I didn't I couldn't wait to change roommates. I didn't know who was going to be in the apartment in the morning when I got up.
Right.
It was a horrific experience. But what was our point?
Well, the point was it's being connected and
Yeah.
not being labeled, under a box of a religion. Again,
Right.
whatever makes you feel good. But, I was brought up Catholic and it was like, and then, and I have friends in every religion, right? Which is crazy. So I would think to myself as a child, like, why is that person going to go to hell because they're this and how, but I like that person and they're really nice. Like that's when I decided as a young adult or a teenager, whatever you want to call it, like this doesn't make any sense to me. Like God's God and we're here and we're human and no one's going to hell for thinking whatever they think. What are you doing out in the world?
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's it. Stop focusing on literally it's really comes down to just be kind for God's sakes. Like,
And
really
for
not
your own
hard.
sake, not just God's sakes, but for your own sake.
Yes.
Right. So it's very interesting. We had mentioned Abraham Hicks earlier
Yeah.
in our offline conversation. And another story she tells, one of the people in the audience asked her about hell. Is there a hell? And her answer was, whatever you manifest exists. So if you believe that there's a hell, then you've created one and it's out there waiting for you.
I agree.
Right?
I still look at living here as hell.
You could think it's
Right?
that.
Some people the
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
It is what you perceive it to be.
This is going to be heaven on earth. This is
Yes.
heaven on earth.
This is going to be, yes.
Yep.
This is heaven
Give
on
it
earth.
another couple of weeks and you'll
Yeah.
absolutely know that it's heaven on earth.
I know, I'm excited. Very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and again, it's perception, it's what you want to create with your mind. And so, Sheila, you created healing with yours, and through that you went through not necessarily good choices as a young adult, with relationships, and I me neither. I made poor choices, but they were necessary choices because I could not have a narcissistic conversation with any of my guests if I wasn't once married to one, right? I could never talk about alcoholism if I was never exposed to one. I could, right? If I didn't have these experiences, then I couldn't have compassion for those who have had them and
100%.
and have come through them.
Yes. And I guess that's what I want to make sure people understand, that your journey is yours. There are no coincidences. Everything, whether good or bad, is not there to hurt you. It's there to teach you if you choose it to be.
Right.
Now, are you going through that horrible process going, woohoo, yay, this really is
I
awful and
can't
I'm
wait
loving it?
for the lesson.
No,
No.
it makes you get uncomfortable. It forces you to change. It forces you to face whatever that is. And if you don't fix it, guess what? It just keeps on knocking and knocking and knocking until you finally figure it out,
Well, until you're uncomfortable enough,
Yeah.
right?
Say, I'm tired. I'm
Right.
tired. What do I need to do? What do I need? I surrender.
You surrender. So it's nothing. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Mm,
Being uncomfortable makes it necessary for you to make a change.
yes.
So even in a narcissistic marriage where I was absolutely miserable, if it wasn't for that one straw, I would still be in that relationship,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And so it honestly was my daughter that's like, I don't want her thinking this is good stuff. This is not a good marriage. I don't want her growing up thinking this is normal.
Yes. There you go.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
God, our lives are really parallel. But and to his credit, we're really great friends today. And my kids understand everything. And I never talked poorly about him ever, because he doesn't deserve that, because he also has pain.
Right. And
Right.
and
that's where
that
narcissism comes from. It's
right.
pain.
Right. So one of the things I can say about the men in my life, because that's who I chose, because until I healed, um, is that they had such deep wounds and
Yeah.
such confusion at the tender age, every single one of them, of early teens.
Yeah.
When you have a loss or a trauma from about, I guess, 7 to about 14, in that time frame, it
Mhm.
anchors in and
Mhm.
it messes with your head,
Sure.
right? And so, I can remember my husband saying, I'm really not as confident as everyone thinks I am. In fact, I'm scared to death.
Mhm.
And me thinking, and you're afraid that I'm going to find out
Right.
as your wife.
Right.
Right. And so that facade, that control is there because you don't want me to see to find out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yep.
And there's pain in there.
Yes.
And, and I think we feel like we'll save them.
No, not anymore. I don't. I don't anymore.
Well,
Right. But
you're
you're
right.
right.
And
You're
now
right.
I'm like, okay, and again, I don't ever want to make him out to sound bad because he wasn't. He went through stuff, and that's legit. And it was, it makes people should realize that I said the same thing. I don't want my children to think this is a healthy relationship because they're just going to mirror it at
Right.
the end of the day. But if they can see us get along and be really great friends, that's what I want them to see. And even though it might not look picture perfect and Facebook ready, it is what it is, right? It is. And how cool is it that we get to be really great friends and get along really well, not living together? You know what I mean?
Right. And sometimes the not living together is the key, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's a great guy. Great guy. Just it wasn't working. And that's not the image I wanted to portray to my children.
Right.
And I not want them to think that's what it's supposed to be. So
Well,
we have to break that system.
and honestly, there's the right person for someone like that,
There is
right? There is the right person for
a
someone like that,
wonderful woman right now. She's amazing, actually. And she's perfect for him.
right?
I'm too tough skinned. I mean, it didn't work,
Right.
and that's
Right.
not a bad thing. It just, and I got two wonderful children as well. So
Yeah. Isn't that a great bonus?
again, look at the blessings, not
Uh-huh.
the other stuff. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you've taken this healing, so you've gone through, a little bit of few bumps,
oh yeah.
and then you woke up. So what happened that got you to where you are now? What was the thing that happened that made you say, wait a minute, I need to look deeper into this life, this thing, I call it the game, this game we call life.
Yeah. I don't know, Gail. I feel like I always questioned everything. I didn't get it till later on. So I have always been awake. I just never understood it.
Right?
Right. I would say it was when I was leaving the marriage,
Mhm.
was when I was like, I've given all of me. I have nothing left. What do I do? And that's when, for me, I turned to God. I started journaling. I started listening to Abraham Hicks. I started, tapping in within, and it started manifesting. And the signs started coming, and synchronicities and guidance. And I was like, whoa, this stuff is like, where are we going with this? And it fested into a jewelry and accessory company. And then I don't know, I can't describe it, but that would say that was the moment. And I don't know how many years ago that is anymore, but somewhere around 20 years, 18 years ago, I don't know. But there were so many gifts inside me I had no idea I had. I knew I could feel everything. I knew of all these things, but I never knew what they were. So I feel like I've always been awake. I just didn't know what awake meant. And
Right. What a great way to put it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then even the worldly things. I always questioned this. Always. I remember being young and my parents watching the stupid news. And I'm like, shut that thing off. It bothers me. It bothers me. It affects me. And I don't believe any of it anyway. I don't.
No,
You have somebody
we could do a
out
whole podcast on truths and lies. Oh, truths and lies. Yeah, I question everything. I thought I was jaded when I was younger because I didn't believe anything, right?
Mhm.
I didn't believe what I was being told. I didn't believe because I saw something different than what was coming out of your mouth,
Yeah. I'm like, this
right?
This
right.
isn't
And I
feeling
felt something different than what you
yeah,
were portraying. And I believed that more than what was coming out of your mouth. And
yeah,
I understood that I was being manipulated. I just
yeah,
didn't know by who,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I fought against that
Of course.
my entire life,
Why do we want to be fools?
right? Well, I no longer feel
No.
manipulated, right?
And yeah.
Right? Right. So there's nothing to fight against. And I think that was
Mhm.
the fear of like, well, so who's pulling the strings?
Right.
Right? Well, I am,
Mhm. Exactly. You
right?
can.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it is true that, and this is the world that's falling apart. The
Sure.
world that has been in the past, that
Mhm.
of lies and manipulation.
Mhm.
And the more people that are waking up, and it's happening at an exponential rate,
Rapid paces right now.
rapid paces, the more
Yeah.
the people are going, wait a minute, I
Mhm.
don't think that's true.
Mhm.
The more people are saying, I don't have to do that. Or why are we doing it that way? That's stupid,
Mhm.
right? Um,
Yes.
the
Like
more,
thinking yourself, not
right,
being told and programmed on what to think,
right,
how
and
to, what to
things
do.
things are changing because of that.
Yeah.
My favorite game, I did this with the client the other day, and a very aware client. I've had
Uh-huh.
some pretty aware clients, and I said, well, why don't we play what if? And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I said, so what is it that you um, want to do, but seems to be a problem getting there? And so let's say, um, making $1 million. Okay. So what if making $1 million was easy? Ooh, I think that would feel good. What if you tapped
Yeah.
in to feeling good all the time?
Yeah.
Oh, life would be delicious. What if life was delicious? Right. And so you take your answer and
Mm,
you say, well,
love
what
that.
if? What if? What if? So it's like it's called the 5 whys, which is a Six
Love
Sigma
it.
tool. But you just what if? What if? What if? Or what if that wasn't true? So
Yeah.
again, take the $1 million. What if you didn't need $1 million?
Right.
Well, then I would be doing this and be doing that. Well, what if doing this and doing that is just something that you can do?
Yeah.
Well, then that means that I'm the one who's stopping me. Well, what if you were able to move forward? That would be miraculous. What if miracles are true? Right?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So you just,
Honestly, it's perception at the end of the day. It's all a perception or a lie that you internally, subconsciously, subliminally believed that you need to unbelieve. If you were told your whole life, oh, you got to win the lottery to make $1 million, or, oh, that's going to be a miracle. But there are miracles every day, and people break records every day, and people make millions of dollars every day. So why can't it be you?
well,
What if you stop telling yourself that story that you are telling yourself?
at Christmas time, I was at a service and I listened to the minister take a truth, teeny weeny piece of truth, and wrap lies around it. And it's the first time I love the Christmas ceremonies. It's the
Mm,
first time I saw nothing but lies in the ceremonies. And
wow.
like, this is how we've all bought the lies
Yeah, we trust people.
because there's the
Well,
truth. I can see the truth. So, for instance, his one of his truths was, "These are dark times," and I sat there and I went, "Right now,
mhm.
it's very dark because the light is about ready to explode through, and so people are afraid. Yes, these are dark times, and there's no way out. But ooh, that's not true. That is
Sure.
not true. We are coming out of it right now. You can't say
Yeah.
there's no way out because that's happening."
Right. Right.
Holy shit. And I'm looking around at everyone buying that there's no way out, right? And I'm like, oh my God, this is so. so bad. This is so
Dreadful.
wrong.
This is dreadful.
Right?
Everybody left Christmas in doom.
Right? 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 And so I'm like, so this is how, that's when it dawned on me
Yeah.
on how because I was always wondering, how did you accept the lies? Right? When you question them your whole life and you
Yeah.
didn't trust your whole life, how did you accept the lies? And that's it. It's kind of like I asked, and the universe said, "This is how,"
Right.
and that's how. And so there is a smidgen of truth in all of the lies. Like, if you go through FBI training, they teach you how to lie by telling
Right.
the truth, but not the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Right.
Right? Right?
Right.
That's how you pass the lie detector test.
If you believe your truth,
Right? Because you're telling the truth,
right.
right?
Crazy, right? I mean, that's exactly it. I mean,
Yeah.
people have convinced themselves of whatever truth they want to hear. And that is it. And that's what they believe. And that is not telling a lie.
Right?
That's what they
Exactly. So what if and I'll give you a sister example because I know what her answers would be because my family comes from fear. What if everything that you believe to be true, tomorrow you woke up and found out it wasn't so? The world will come to an end. What if the world doesn't come to an end?
Mm,
Well, I don't know. What if you not knowing is okay, right? So
mhm.
what if, right? And that's where, when we talk about being open and being connected and being spiritual, it's really just being curious and saying, well, what if I walked with the gods?
What if?
What if?
Yeah.
What if the gods talk to me every day? I have a friend, I did a meditation with her and her family, and when we were done, the conversations we were having, I'm like, she's touching God right now.
Yeah.
Whatever is coming out of her mouth is like directly from, holy shit, I wish we were recording this.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
And
half the words that come out of my mouth are not mine.
they're
They're
not.
not.
And the Bible says there's where two or more miracles happen.
Hmm.
Right? And it doesn't
Hmm.
mean we have to be in the same room.
Right.
Got two people right now that are together and miracles are happening in our conversation.
Yep. And I'm getting goosebumps. I don't know about you, Gail.
Right? Absolutely. Well, I'm like, if you see me looking around, it's because I'm like,
Nope, it's not.
it's not. So
The
we
same
never know
way.
where conversations are going. But
Mhm.
but Sheila, so what are some of the things that you do for folks now? And how can
So
people get in touch with you?
I appreciate that. Well, like you, I feel we have been called to be there for the people when they decide what if. And when they're ready to say, what if there is something better? That's what we've been trained to do. So I did write a book called Powerful Mind, Powerful Soul. It's very easy, very simple. I know we live in a fast paced life and time. So I covered everyone's excuse. Um, I know you are an amazing author, many, many books. This was only my second one, and I created a journal that's beautiful, a deck of cards. I'm trying to get people that are ready to take that first step, and it's not so hard. It's kind of like a beginner's tool to heal, if you want to call it, like Powerful Mind, Powerful Soul 101.
Right?
Let's call it that. That's what I should have called it. But that's really what it is. So you can do I call it an experience. Because if you actually well, the book is an experience, but the book, the cards, the journal, I believe a lot of magic lies in the journal. A lot of people will agree that are like us as well. It's where I'm able to tap in anyway. So maybe that's why I favor it so much. But most I talk to, whether and that could be through any exercise actually. So I take that back. It's not always in the journal. It's in the form of which you download your information. Because sometimes it came to me from running. But anyway, so
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Or
I
for
created
walking.
walking. running, yeah, yoga, whatever that is, it's tapping in. And I just believe that first and foremost, we need to discover who the hell we are. Who are we? Why are we here? And what's the point of all of this? Right?
Right.
But let's figure that out. You need to learn how to respect, value, love yourself. When you can do that and master that, you can master anything at all, right? And life will just become so much easier for you. And yeah, so that's what I've created. So that being said, I've just launched, it's only a week old right now, but a YouTube channel. This is fairly new. I'm not on, I should be on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all of that in about 1 to 2 more weeks, finally. But it is all available on my website, powerfulmindpowerfulsoul.com. But I am trying to just get the message out on any and every platform available to me, any stage available to me, any podcast available to me as well. So, and when you are in that now, you just meet people like-minded. It just,
It just flows. It just flows.
It's magnetic.
It's magnetic. Yes, it's pretty amazing. So,
Yeah.
absolutely, and all of this information will be in the show notes. So, people didn't get to write them down. It's in the show notes. Thank you so much, Sheila. And this is Gail Craft from the Empowering Process podcast. If there is something in here that stirred you, or if you have questions, please do comment for us. Give us a thumbs up. That always helps. If you know someone who could benefit from this conversation, which was a little bit strange conversation, absolutely share it out with them. And as always, always, we love you. Please do subscribe so that you know when there's another episode that comes available. Again, Gail Craft saying goodbye. We love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.